Welcome to Buck the Quo's AMA. This is going to be a fantastic one. Today we're talking with a Boise police officer. He's going to join at any second. Just has to click on the little thing that says join, and then we can do that whole thing. I just want to get going by saying welcome to Buck the Quo. If you don't know what Buck the Quo is, little rundown for you really quick. We are all about helping high school students like you figure out what you're passionate about, what you want to do with your life, what are the directions you want to explore, things you want to check out, and then we help you kind of find your way through navigating what that looks like. What do you have to do to get there? What are the steps you need to take? We help answer a lot of questions you might have about life after high school. We know high school right now is especially weird, being out of it, but in it, and all this, and the next step, and what's it going to look like. So we're here to help as much as we can with questions about your future, and that can be anything. So I want to kick this off right now. We actually have our amazing guest who is ready to be brought in. So I'm going to say yellow, and I'm going to say waiting now. We're just waiting for a second. So feel free through this whole thing to drop your questions in. We'll do our best to get to all of them. Any questions you have for him, and I'm going to give him a nice little rundown as soon as he gets popped in here. Hello.
Hey there, how you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing good, thanks. Sorry, I'm slow on the technology.
Don't be sorry at all. It's very difficult. My headphones didn't work for a while. I wasn't even signed into the account for a bit before. That's technology. Thank you so much for being here. So my name's Chris, and this is great. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, this is Officer Chris Zimmer.
Hey guys.
This is going to be a really fun interview. I know we're so happy to have you. I know we're going to have a ton of great questions coming in. I just want to kick off a couple things before we get started, if that's okay with you, time-wise.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. The first one is this. We at Buck the Quo have a bunch of cool swag. So if you're watching this now, you're watching this in the future, feel free to put a question in or a comment, and then we would love, for participation-wise, we'd love to reach out to you. And if you have a great question, see if you want to get something. So if you're a high school student living in Idaho or the surrounding area, feel free to drop a question in, and then we can follow up with you about getting you some awesome Buck the Quo swag. So there's one thing. The second thing is, before we kick off this interview and start asking some questions, I'm just going to read a tiny little synopsis about our amazing guest here, just to kind of get the facts laid down for those watching, and then we can kind of dive into some questions. So here I go. This is going to be weird because I'm talking to you about yourself, but that's okay. So here we go. So it is I'm just going to read it verbatim because that's the way to do it best. Christopher has been a police officer for about 15 years. Starting in Washington State, currently assigned to the Boise Police Bicycle Unit that patrols downtown, the city parks, and the Greenbelt. When you graduate high school, had no idea what he wanted to do, but while attending college, took some classes in teaching and social work, and that eventually helped develop an interest in policing. He worked for a few years after college in construction, at an abused children's home, and as university security before getting hired as a police officer. Everything factually accurate in that.
Yeah, pretty good there.
Perfect. I would hate to say something off. So I want to dive in again. If you're watching, please feel free to ask any questions you might have. It's great that we can all kind of get in here and get some questions. Maybe you're interested in a field or something we talk about, spark something. So please feel free to ask a question. I have one right out the gate. This is perfect.
All right.
So it looks like not knowing what you had no idea out of high school what you wanted to do. Was that really difficult? Was that something that was like, were you scared at that time? What were kind of the steps you took?
Absolutely. It put a lot of stress on me. Both my parents worked careers for like 30, 35 years. So I was like, man, you got to know what you're going to do and be all right with it for the rest of your life. And so I had last couple of years of high school, I was completely stressed out because I had no pull toward any one field. Really didn't know what I wanted to study in college even. So I had planned on going to 2-year community college right out of high school. Didn't take my SATs or anything like that. So it sounds like I was a really kind of an underperformer, but I did pretty well in high school, enjoyed it, lots of friends, sports, stuff like that. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And so yeah, I did the community college plan. Still kind of struggled after that, but I really started to like science while I was there.
Okay.
So then I started thinking of jobs I could do in science, and I knew I wanted to help in some way. So teaching was my first kind of thought to pursue. And then that's what I started when I went on to a 4-year university. That was what I set out to do, was be a science teacher.
Okay. So what changed from science, wanting to be a science teacher, to making that jump?
Organic chemistry is really hard. And so
It's a great answer.
I wasn't doing very well with that. So that was setting me back, retaking a couple classes. That set me back some time. And then to get into the teaching classes I needed to get into to graduate, they only offered them like once a year. So then I was going to have to wait for a whole nother year for that. So I was looking at, I don't know, these guys are probably too young to know Tommy Boy, but I was looking at going to school for like 8 years and
not getting your doctorate.
Yeah. So like full honesty, I started flipping through the catalog and knowing what classes I had taken. I was looking through the catalog and I thought, what's the quickest degree I can get out of here in a reasonable amount of time? So that landed on sociology. I had a couple electives that fit with that. So I did my 2-year Associate of Arts, went on to 3-year or 4-year university, took 3 years and got my sociology degree is what I graduated with. But that was a good opportunity because I took some criminal justice classes in that major, as well as some social work kind of classes in the major. And so those were kind of the 2 areas I was thinking about when I graduated college.
It sounds like something that we talk a lot about at Buck the Quo is this idea that it doesn't just have to be point A to point B. Like you can take a path. Like a lot of people, especially in high school, are thinking, if I don't have my plan set in stone in the first, first few weeks out of high school, then I'm going to be lost. But it sounds like an untraditional sort of, I went here and then I followed this interest and went here. That can work out, and you're the proof.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm thankful for my experiences. I still enjoy, certain areas of science. I still think teaching would be a great profession. But it just turned out it took me some time to find my fit. And I truly do think I found what I was meant to do. And it was just all those experiences that helped me get to that point, trying something for a little while. To jump back to the social work kind of thing. I did go work. It started as an internship and then into a part-time job working at an abused children home. And that I realized pretty quickly, the treatment side of things wasn't for me. And I wanted to be more investigative, hold the people accountable that did those kinds of things to kids and people and victimized people, because I saw that no matter if somebody got the best kind of treatment, in the worst case scenario, they're never going to be made whole again. And so that pushed me to the policing side of things. And then that's where I jumped into the university security. It was the closest thing I could get to try and get some experience in that area. Still nothing quite like being a police officer, but it was a good stepping stone for me and a good experience.
That goes back to a question we had just a little bit earlier, which is great. Did you have a life event that sparked your interest in law enforcement? Would you say it was working in that abused children's home, or was there another event that sparked that for you?
I think I was let's see here. I just started college when September 11th happened. Okay. And I kind of when I was in high school, one of my favorite teachers that kind of inspired me to look at teaching, he was in the Navy and then became a teacher. And I started thinking I wanted to be kind of just like him. Unfortunately, he passed away during my senior year before I could really sit down and talk to him about how that worked out for him. So then when September 11th happened, I was thinking about a serving capacity, but I also became kind of selfish at that point. And being that I had done some school, I kind of was comfortable at home. I didn't want to take the step to do a military career. I looked at some federal jobs. I applied for Border Patrol. I applied for Air Marshal, that new position that came out, and I found out highly underqualified for that.
That's a tough one. That's up there.
Yeah. I had pictures of looking like, Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11, wearing the cool suits, sitting on an airplane, traveling around the world. And it turned out it was nothing like that. So
not that.
So it's kind of a transition from that, and then again, kind of the schooling, some of the classes I took, and then I think probably that abused children home job really sealed the deal for me. That I wanted to get into enforcement and intervention before crimes happen.
Yeah. We had another great question come in about when you mentioned, you have an interest and you go into that thing, you learn more about that. Going back to the idea of teaching and giving back in that way. And the question was, would you go back to teaching in the future? Is that something that is that something you would do, that you're interested in? Like, not since you already have that you would go back to, you didn't just leave it all behind?
Yeah, I've thought about in retirement, maybe looking at substituting or doing a teaching position. My wife was just talking to me about that the other day, as I could look at teaching. And I even thought if I continued my education, there was a period where I was considering getting my master's, maybe even teaching at a college level in a criminal justice program or something like that would be fun, and be able to use my experience that way.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit, just talking about what you actually do now. The question we get a lot when we talk to high school students is who are interested in law enforcement or who maybe don't know the path they want to take is, what's the most difficult part about being a police officer, in the sense of, and it's interesting, not just like physical challenges, but like some of the mental stuff. How do you deal with that? So can we just talk a little bit about that, like the difficulties in that area?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple parts to answering this question. One is the area you work. Community support is huge. Where I worked in Washington, it was a great agency, great community, but there was a lot of, still dealt with a lot of, I guess I can't really say a lot, but I still dealt with kind of anti-police rhetoric.
Sure.
Here in Boise, there's very little of that. There is some you still get, but overall, Boise is a great community to work for, and I feel so blessed to work here. The people are just amazing. So that's a huge help. If I had to do the job where I had to worry about that side of things more, it
Right.
would be more taxing, because a lot of the stuff you deal with is internalized. The things you see, the things you do,
Right.
it just with you, and there definitely is a mental side of it. I've seen probably over 100 dead bodies in various states, and that's at the time. There's never been anything at the time where I've dealt with it. It's been hard. It's afterwards, when you're thinking back
Sure.
about your day, or you see something that brings up a memory, and that's where it's the hardest, I think. And that's been my hardest part of the job. And I think if you have good family support, good friends, and a life outside of the career, those all help you be successful in remaining a healthy person. A lot of police officers, because you have shift work, you work goofy schedules, so the only people that have time off are other police officers. So you start spending all your time with them.
Right.
You're with them at work, in your free time, and you really get that kind of tunnel vision on what life is. Because typically people aren't calling to tell you they've had a good day. So it's just, if that's all you're hearing, seeing, thinking about 24 hours a day, it's going to eat you up. And so I think really having some good hobbies, I like to fish, I like to hike, I like to camp, I like to spend time with my family. So those are all things. Faith, having a faith, I think, is very helpful to keep your head kind of clear and on the right path. So, and feel free, I get wordy and I go on tangents, and if you need to jump in or anything.
I do not. This is perfect. No, you're talking about all the stuff that we're interested in, because that's something that is,
Okay.
that's true. The idea of not only the physical and the mental things that can come up with that, and seeing things that are really hard to deal with. It's a lot about, I'm glad you talked about support system, because a lot of kids, a lot of our audience, when we talk about law enforcement, it's, okay, I'm worried about that this could be a challenge for me. How would I deal with that? How would you start thinking about it when you're planning your career, and you say, geez, do I really want to do something where I don't know how to deal with what I could see on it? And I think it's great to hear that if you're a person that's finding ways to, you know, have support around you, and you have this camaraderie and you have family and all these things, it's going to help you be able to deal with those things. It's not some crazy thing that you're going to become a really dark, bad, you know, person because you've seen dark things. I think that's really great.
Absolutely. You can certainly have success. I mean, I feel like I'm a healthy person. Most all of the people I work with, I feel like they have a great work-life balance, and certainly you can be successful at it.
We had a great question. Going back in time just a bit, what class do you think prepared you the most for life? And I like this question for two reasons. I'm going to ask it two ways. What class best prepared you for life, just in general, living life, being an adult human person? And which class do you think prepared you the most for what you do as a profession now?
That's I got to think on the spot. I try and think quickly, but I think for life, man, I think some of just any of the, maybe more so in college, any of the critical thinking courses, you know, not the mark A, B, or C answers, but
Right.
kind of working through more of the problem solving and just critical thinking, and actually reading, like, probably I think most college projects tend to, you read a book or review information, and then you develop an idea based off of that, your own idea, and then you present it. So I think being able to critically think through a topic, learn about it, and then present your opinion and be able to defend that opinion. And that might be too broad of an answer, but I'm thinking maybe some of my sociology classes, I did some of that, kind of just researching behavioral stuff, why people are the way they are, and then presenting about it. So I'm 41, so my mind's getting a little cloudy. So specific class, I wish I had a better answer.
No, I think that works good, because what you said in a nutshell is something that we run into a bunch as well, which is, you know, well, I'm not good at ABC answer type things, then I can't get into that life. Well, no, we want you to use your brain and your thoughts and your perspective on things. And there are people, when you get into there, that are going to want to hear that too. You know, it's easy for people to be like, oh, I got into it's so difficult. Like, they just want you to mark the Scantron. It's like, just hang in there. The thing you love, you're going to get to develop and be more involved with that as you go along.
Yeah, and if I can jump back in there, I've sat on interviews and, of course, tested for a number of police agencies and talked to people that got hired afterwards with me. And I've seen and know that people answer the same question differently, completely different answers. And the key to that answer is, did they critically think about the situation? Did they formulate an opinion? And then they suggest an action based on that was well thought out, that showed they thought of, you know, it was a critical thinking thing, and did they do it quickly and professionally? And so that certainly did help me with getting into the career as well. Is can you formulate an opinion quickly and defend that with a reasonable explanation?
That's a great jump point to another question that I had, which is, and it might actually be some of those same things you may say again, but someone that's looking forward and saying, I would love to have a career, I'd love to be involved in law enforcement. What do you suggest are the skills they should probably work on the most for themselves? And not necessarily like you need to read this book and take this course, but more just like, this is the part, like you said, like critical thinking, or what are those skills that they should kind of develop and at least be thinking about?
One of the main ones that always comes up is multitasking. So many times during my day, if I'm on a call dealing with somebody, I may be talking to somebody in front of me, have somebody approaching from the side, and then something happens on my radio that I'm hearing that's maybe a block away, that's way higher priority than this, but I'm going to be the closest person. So you have to be able to hear, see, feel, you know, know what's going on in multiple different places. You know, having a partner in the car with you or whatever, and you're talking with him, and all of a sudden something comes out on the radio, you got to switch gears and think, okay, where is that? How are we going to respond? What do we need to respond? And so multitasking is a huge one. And that's something you can just work on, you know, at home, having a couple of different things going, maybe music playing in the background, a conversation going on, and just little things throughout your day. Try and pick up different things and do them at once. And that's something that comes with time, but it is hard to do. And I wish I had a better way of training up your mind for that. But then another one is just being able to have a conversation with somebody. I think I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't really know about a lot about any particular thing.
Right.
And so that allows, so, you know, I can bump into a banker and have a conversation with them, you know, or a construction guy or whatever. And just being able to have a dialogue with somebody, or be able to kind of sense cues off of a conversation, you know, is what I'm doing working with this person, or do I need to try a different tact? And really just being able to communicate well with someone.
Right. That's good. We had a great question come in. This one's a little more tactical, but do I need to go to college in order to become a police officer? That's a fantastic question.
Yeah, absolutely. Most agencies are requiring, I think, a credit level that works out to be about 2 years of college. You don't necessarily need a degree, but I think it's more the norm that you need about 2 years of college. And so
Okay.
I think most do require that.
Is there a particular path towards that? Or like, is there a kind of like you go in and say, I want to be a police officer, and they'll kind of give you the class you need to take, or is that kind of how it works?
There is a criminal justice major. What I strongly suggest, though, and this is from years of talking to other officers involved in hiring and training and stuff, is don't put all your eggs in one basket with that. Just study something broad, or find a topic you like, or maybe something you're interested in, but you really want to be a police officer, but you're also interested in this. Pursue that degree. When you get hired, you get all the training you need in the police academy and then with your agency. So, you know, things like who knows what's going to happen with our economy right now. You know, when I was looking at making the transition to Boise was on a hiring freeze for 2 years because that was back in like 2006 during that economic downturn. You may start the job and realize it's not for you after all you've done to prepare. So I think having that other interest to pursue just makes you a better, more well-rounded person, and it gives you other options if the police thing doesn't work out. But yeah, there are criminal justice classes you can take if you want to try, you know, a few of them out to get some experience to see if it's what you want to do. Absolutely do that.
Barring any comment questions come in, I have one more for you. As far as when you do get to that level where you're out of college, you've got that, maybe you've gone to police academy, there's a lot of fields you can go into from there. It's not just like, okay, I'm a police officer, boom. There's still a ton of different specialties and areas you can go and things that grow. It's one of those things we talk a lot about, which is it's never really done. Like there's always things you can keep pursuing and interests you can go with. And do you see that a lot? Absolutely.
Yeah, you do. You have continued training throughout your career. You're never done. You never know it all. So even if you were just to be a patrol officer for your entire career, you get to work. You could work different shifts,
Sure.
which you see during day versus night. Different agencies allow for different things, like the size of Boise. It's a huge agency, so even working different parts of the city, you get different types of calls. But yeah, like you mentioned, I'm in the bicycle unit, so that's a tested position within the department. So that was something I could do, just like your detectives, your school resource officers, canine officers, drug officers, SWAT officers. You have all kinds of opportunities, and those are typically going to all be tested positions within the department. So, you know, that's something where if you're able to work those kinds of cases on the job or seek out some extra training in those areas, then you can build your resume to test within the agency to move into those positions. And so, yeah, you certainly do have all kinds of different jobs you can do within a police department, but you typically start as a patrol officer. That's the backbone of any agency, that's where you learn the most, and then you apply those lessons to those other specialties.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I'm hoping, and if we maybe get some more questions that come in as we post this video, that we can reach back out to you. Maybe we can talk to you again sometime. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if you, you guys should have my email. Feel free to pass that out to anybody if somebody has
Sure.
some follow-up questions too, or anytime reach out to me, and I'm happy to help however I can.
Well, we just got a fantastic question, which is, what kind of bike do you ride, and does it have pegs?
Yeah, the pegs, that's how I transport prisoners.
There we go.
And I'm thinking about getting one of those trailers you pull behind it.
Yeah, that's way better.
Yeah. But no, I do get asked if I ride a bike because I have to, or if I got in trouble. So I usually tell people I crashed my patrol car into a school bus, and now I ride a bike. But
that's what they gave you.
But yeah, we ride. We get them through a local bike shop. We do a lease program, and it's a Surly bike. We chose it because it's a steel frame, so it holds up well to our, the stuff we do, going off curbs, going in the foothills, whatever it is, crashing every now and then. Holds up pretty well. But no pegs, honestly. So
no pegs.
No.
Well, thank you so much again.
Yeah, you bet.
Have a great night. We'll definitely talk soon for sure. Thank you.
All right. Good. Thank you, Chris. Take care, everyone.
Hey, bye. Boom. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. This has been amazing AMA. Please feel free to comment. If you're watching this and it's not live, that's okay, because we'll go back and we'll look at those questions and we'll see, okay, how can we get that answered for you, and we'll respond. That's what we do best. So ask us questions, anything related to this. And also feel free to send us messages if you know anybody you think that we should talk to in a certain field. Like maybe you want us to talk to an architect or an astronaut. We could look into that. So thank you so much again. Feel free to comment, and then you can also, if you do, or you already did, maybe we'll give you some swag for doing it. So that's awesome too. Thank you so much for watching Buck the Quo. Have a great night and a great time whenever you're watching this thing. We out. I just want to kick off a little bit. Now we are going to have our... Can you hear me now?